For now, I ain't thinking about tomorrow. It's the real thing, not a gimmick. I'm not so sim here, I'm all in it. I got a good story every time I wake up. I'm in the action, chips on the table. I want the feel good, I need another percentage. I want the win, lucky 7 every time I walk in. You know, every time I walk in, I'm the best thing, I'm the best thing. They all watching every time we walk in. We the best thing, we the best thing.
Good afternoon, everybody. That sounded really game show hosty, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. It's Tuesday. Thank you guys for joining us, for joining me. It's just me today, so be prepared. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. My name is Chelsea Mann. I'm a field educator with Wella Professional. I'm super excited to be here with you guys today, and I'm very, very grateful for Modern Beauty Supply, as usual, for allowing us to use their Instagram. We do a little bit of an Instagram takeover a couple of times a week. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Like I said, my name is Chelsea Mann, and today we're going to talk about arguably the most important thing that we do as hairdressers. And a lot of people, I think, focus when they're learning how to do hair, when they're when they're apprenticing, things like that, they focus a lot on technique. And I think that's really important. But the most important thing, and I think you guys know this, the most important thing we do as hairdressers is know how to talk to people. If you don't know how to talk to people, you can have all the technique in the world. But if you don't know how to talk to people, you're going to be up a creek without a paddle. So a few small things. Today I'm hoping to be on with you guys for about 30 minutes. I really want you guys to feel comfortable asking questions. Please do. If you guys have any questions, down at the bottom there, I think it's like, let's see if I can do it. I think it's right there. Sorry about my Corona fingernails. I got an appointment on Friday. Pretty excited. There's a little box that has a question mark in it, question mark for questions. So if you guys have questions, please throw them into the question cards. I will try to answer them as we go here. And there's a few of my colleagues I know are watching in the comments. Sorry, my husband's trying to sneak out the door as quietly as possible. There he goes. There's a few of my colleagues watching the comments as well. So please throw your questions up as you guys have them, okay? So again, thank you to Modern for letting us use your Instagram. And I wanted to say too, a little bit of something for you guys to do, a little bit of sort of homework. If you don't already have the Wella app, I encourage you guys to get on there, to download it off of your app store, your Play Store. It's the Wella Education app. You're going to have to make an account, username, email address. We will not email stalk you. We do not have time for that. But you're gonna have to make an account, identify yourself as a professional in order to be able to access our information. The information that I'm going to be talking about today on our beautiful consultation pad is available on the app. So if you don't have these in-house, which is going to be most of you, you can feel free to look them up under Knowledge Library on the app and be prepared. The app is a treasure trove of information and you can really, kick it in the tub with a box of wine and have a great Saturday with that app, let me tell you. So hey Quebec, woo woo, bonjour. I'm not going to do any of it in French except for that bonjour, so sorry about that. So today we're going to talk about consultation. So my first point is, what is consultation? I think by definition, we can talk about consultation just being a conversation we have with our clients about what they want, what they're looking for their hair, what they want their end result to be. Those sorts of things I think are wrapped up in consultation. But I also think that consultation is so much bigger than that. I think it's such an important point, right? So consultation, yes, is fact finding. What are we doing with our clients that day? What sort of end result do they want? But I believe that the more you get to know your clients, the more information, personal information you can get from your clients in a consultation, the bigger picture you'll be able to have of what they really are looking for with their hair long term. Okay. Now, people that have taken classes with me before, especially as it relates to consultation, have heard me say that I'm not interested in one-time hair money. Okay. And what I mean by that is that me personally as a hairdresser, because I am a working hairdresser still, I educate full time, but I do have my own clients. And I tell my own clients as well, I don't want your money one time. I don't want to see you one time. I want to think long term about your hair, and I want to get to know you and your lifestyle so that we together can make choices for your hair that make sense for you in the long term. So consultation for me is more than just talking to a client about what you're going to do with their hair that day. It's a long-term conversation where we are getting to know that client and really sort of making mental notes or physical notes if you have a bad memory, which is totally fine, about what that client's lifestyle is like, right? We're going to talk a little bit more later about lifestyle questions. I think lifestyle questions are very important. But if you're somebody also that has not a great memory, you're not going to remember everything about the 100 clients you see a day, feel free to write things down in their client cards. If you're keeping client records, like you should, if somebody says to you, my daughter's getting married next summer, that's something you want to write down, because then the next time you consult with that client, you could say to them, oh, how is Judy's wedding planning going? What is that client going to say to you back? They're going to say, oh my gosh, look at the memory on you. We've all heard this before. Look at how great your memory is. Well, no, Judy, I wrote it down, but they don't need to know that, right? It's okay that they think that we just care, we care about our clients, but it's okay that they think that we care so much that we never forget any details about them, right? We're human beings. We love our clients. It's an intimate business, but it's okay that we forget things, right? I think it's also important to ask lifestyle questions and maybe write these things down, because I know it's happened to me before where somebody has said to me, oh, my dog died, or, something bad happened in their life. And then the next time they come in, I'm like, oh, how's your dog? And they're like, oh, we talked about this, right? So writing these things down in their client cards, your client record cards are not just for formulas, right? Mine are peppered with all kinds of things that I didn't want to forget for the next time they were going to be in. So when you were talking about what is a consultation and what makes a good consultation, I want to move past the idea that in consultation, we're jumping right into what sort of things are we doing with your hair today. We really need to dig a little deeper than that, okay? The other thing I wanted to talk about was, what sort of clients do we consult with? What do you guys think? Like, what clients that come into the salon get a consultation from us, right? I know for me, I do consultations with every single client. I call them like 2-week Betty. That's a Stephen Lomas hashtag term right there. If we have a 2-week Betty in our chair, which is great, these are mortgage paying clients, right? If we have these clients in our chair, do they get a consultation or not, because we know them so well, right? Absolutely. All of them. Thank you in the comments there. All of our clients should get a consultation, right? We all know the biggest reason that clients change hairdressers is because they're bored, because we're not offering them anything new, because we have lost that sort of little je ne sais quoi. Oh, there's another little bit of French for you, French team. We've lost that little je ne sais quoi that makes them feel special, right? Yes, somebody in the comments, don't do the drive-by. We don't want to do those drive-by, hey, we're doing the same thing as last time. Awesome, I'll go mix your color. Like the wink and the gun, we don't want to be that guy, right? So don't do the drive-by consultations. I know that I hate it when the phone company calls me, and I've been their customer for 25 years, and they say to me, we have this promotion for new customers. Sign up as a new customer, we'll give you an iPad. And I'm like, I've been giving you my money for 25 years. Where's my iPad? I don't need an iPad, for the record, although if I'll take it. But my point is that as an existing customer, and a loyal customer, I expect to be treated and made to feel just as special as those new clients, right? So no drive-by consults. Make sure that we are consulting with every client, okay? So behind me here, we've got the steps. Sorry, that's my phone. I'll just turn that one off for you. Behind me here, we've got the steps to a good consultation. Okay, so I've got 7 steps here. Now you guys will see those of you that have the app and you're going to go and look up this fun guy, you'll see that in the app, there's actually 6 steps. Okay. And I added this one, greeting. Okay. And I'll tell you why. For me, the first step to a great consultation is greeting. How are we greeting our clients? What are they visually being greeted by, right? Some salons, and there's not really a right or wrong answer here, guys. It really depends on what works for you and what works for the demographic of your salon. But sometimes you walk into a salon and there's nobody to greet them at the front, or there's not really a welcoming environment. So how do you want to greet your clients coming into the salon? Do you want them to enter to see lots of beautiful retail shelves? I belong to this camp. I like retail shelves, right? Or do we want to have a nice, well laid out sitting area? How do you want your customers to feel when they come into the salon? Okay. The second step of a good greeting is understanding who is your client's first point of contact, right? So I would say that the first and last point of contact in most salons is the same person. It's the receptionist, right? Or the front end manager. Okay. Now these people are the unsung heroes of the hair salon, right? Hairdressers, we tend to be peacocks. We got our feathers out all the time. Look at how great we're doing. We get a lot of praise from our clients. It's a really beautiful thing for the ego, right? The receptionist or the front end manager, they are the heroes of the hair salon, in my opinion, right? They have the opportunity to sort of make or break you as a hairdresser. So how are we asking our front end staff to approach our clients, right? I used to work with a really great front end manager when I lived in Ottawa, who I felt very comfortable. I knew was always going to be that really great first point of contact for my clients, and was always going to make sure when my clients left that they were pre-booked, that they were buying retail, and that they were doing all of these things, right? So that first point of contact, guys, I think is really important. So for any salon owners that are watching right now, if you're using Wella products or if you really want some help with that, our team in the West, we're absolutely happy to help train your front end staff as well. So don't be afraid to reach out to us for tips and tricks or to book a class on that. Instagram right there. Okay. So make sure you guys are pointing, or that you guys are paying attention to that first and last point of contact. Okay. My second step here, guys, is atmosphere. Okay. And this is where it really begins into my consultation pad here. Okay. So the front of the consultation pad looks like this. And again, guys, on your app, it's going to look a little bit different, but that's okay. When we open it up, your steps to your good consultation is here, okay? Client segmentations, and then there's some actual like cards that you guys can fill out. I have a few salons who ask me for these pages all the time or print them off of the app, and they actually use these for new clients. These are also great reference tools, guys, if you're trying to have a new consultation process in the salon. These have really great ideas of what you can use, what sorts of questions to ask, okay? Not gonna read it to you. I'm gonna imagine all of you can read, and it will be quite boring to listen to me read it, so we're not gonna do that. But the second step here I've written down is atmosphere. And that sort of relates to our first point of greeting. What is the atmosphere like when our clients first enter the salon? What sort of atmosphere are we creating for that client while we're doing a consultation, okay? I think a really great point for atmosphere is to sit at the client's level, okay? Now, you guys can't tell right now because I'm sitting down, but I'm nearly 6 feet tall, okay? And I am loud, I have long limbs, you know what I mean? I got a lot of opinions, right? So for me, people find me a little bit overbearing at times. I'm super aware of it, I own it, it's fine. That being said, if you're a new client and I'm standing behind you, hovering over top of you while we're talking, it's not a very comfortable sort of environment for somebody who maybe is a little bit more introverted, a little bit less like me, right? So if you're somebody who is like me, who's loud and proud and all the time like that, and you don't have another speed, I also don't have another speed, totally fine. But sometimes you got to be aware of sort of how you come across to people. Have a sit, have a little eye contact, have a little bevy, totally fine too, right? Hopefully out of your Wella mug. And then it creates a more comfortable atmosphere for that client, right? So that's my first point for atmosphere, is to sit at their level, look somebody in the eye, okay? Anybody in the comments, can you guys tell me what is the most important and strongest way that human beings communicate with each other? What type of communication do human beings use with each other the most? What do you guys think? Give you a couple of seconds in the comments. I'll do a little dance to see if we can get some comments. I know that there's a couple of people on there that know. Anybody want to have a guess? I could goofy dance all day, guys. I can do it. No? Okay. So there it is. Very good. A couple more. There we go. So maybe there's a delay and my funky dance is just coming across now. Sorry about that. But the most important way that human beings, not just in the hair salon, but human beings communicate with each other is body language. Absolutely, right? So thank you, Zena, for your compliment on my dancing. If I'm consulting with you and you're as my client, you're sitting back in the chair like this, that tells me that you're closed off. Crossed arms, anybody that's ever watched poker will tell you, crossed arms is a sign of being closed off, and sitting back in your chair is a sign of power, of feeling like you're in a power position, right? So when somebody is sitting like that, does that tell you that they super want to have a conversation about their day and all of they want to go super deep? It's sort of the hair salon equivalent of getting on an airplane and putting on your headphones. It's this universal sign for leave me alone, right? So you have to learn to read your client's body language, right? My husband is somebody whose body language speaks very strongly because he doesn't speak out of his mouth a lot, which is why we're good together, right? So I think when it comes to body language, he sits down in a hairdresser's chair and they might speak to him about the fact that his hair is thinning, right? And he's very open-minded. My husband's from Nova Scotia, so he's very easygoing. But he's secretly, he's very sensitive about his thinning hair, and he would actually probably be pretty mad to know that I just told you all that, but whatever. But if you sit down with him and you don't read his body language and you're just like, ooh, your hair is thinning, we should do something about this, he's going to shut down. He's going to feel very overwhelmed and probably never come back, right? So I think the idea of reading body language and understanding that that's how human beings communicate effectively with each other, I think is really important, okay? So in atmosphere, make sure you're sitting at their level. Make sure that you're creating a space where they feel comfortable speaking to you. Well, you know what I mean? If somebody's, feeling emotional, we have all had instances where we have clients into the salon that are feeling emotional. Maybe that's a situation where you take them outside and have an outdoor consult where you can, be alone and you can find a safe space to do that, right? We all know that we're also therapists, so... my point, guys, though, is that really create that environment where those clients can open up to you, and they will, and that speaks to the idea of long-term client relationships, okay? So my second reminder, guys, don't be afraid to throw your questions into the comments or the question cards, okay? My third point here, guys, is personalization, okay? So which I realize gets cut off there, but what are you gonna do? Personalization, fundamentally on your cards here, guys, has to do with knowing your client. Right? And it ties into my original point about atmosphere. The more you know about your client, the more you'll be able to customize services for them. Okay? Gone are the days where we're doing the same foil application or haircut over and over and over again and copy and pasting it to different lengths and reasons. We are really in the salon now doing a lot of really bespoke and curated services for that change client to client. Biggest reason why you guys do this, back pocket, that has nothing to do with consultation. Bespoke services are services that other people won't be able to repeat. So if you do something to your client's hair that the salon down the street can't replicate, that's a good thing, right? But the more you get to know those clients on a personal level, the more you'll be able to curate those services for them, right? So this speaks to the idea of lifestyle questions that I briefly talked about before, okay? One of my pet peeves when I'm in salon, which I do this quite a bit, not right now, but I do this quite a bit where I'll go into a salon and I'll do formulation days and I'll help them and I'll watch them with their clients. It's very Tabitha, you know what I mean? Except for without the edginess. Yeah. Anyways, so one of my biggest pet peeves when I watch other people do consultations is the skipping of the lifestyle questions. They go straight into what are we doing with your hair, right? I like to sit down with my clients eye to eye and I ask them, how's it going? What's happened in your life? And right now we got all kinds of things to talk about because I hadn't seen my clients in 3 months, right? What's going on in your life? How are you doing? And you can use the things that you wrote down on their client card from last time to ask them about, right? Your client is sitting there thinking, oh, she's really interested in my life, or he really cares about me, which, make no mistake, guys, I super care about my clients. I love my clients, and not just because they pay me. This is an intimate business, right? But the more personal information you can, personal not meaning like deep dark secrets, but like the more you know about a client's life and lifestyle, the more you'll be able to curate services for them, right? So while they're sitting there thinking, oh, this is nice to have a little chat, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, your daughter Judy's getting married next summer. I need to talk to you about what the lead up to that looks like as the mother of the bride. Or, you're telling me that your gray grew in during, this is all my clients right now, your gray grew in a little bit during COVID lockdown and you're not hating it. Awesome. That's something that I need to pay attention to. You're telling me this because it's to do with how you live your life. but what I hear is things that I need to know in order to curate services for you. Okay? So that's well, it's second on here, third on there. My third point is know your clients and get to know those clients. Be genuine about it. People love this, trust me. Okay? On your paper here or on your app, it'll say gather information to build a picture of your client, essentially is the short version of what I just said. My next point here is advise. Okay, so one of the things at Wella that we've been talking about for years now is acting as a beauty coach. Okay, so when you are into your consultation, you're sitting, you're having a conversation, you're talking about the client's lifestyle. Now we move into acting as a beauty coach. Now we move into taking those things that we got from that client and talking about their lifestyle, and we tell them what that picture, that long-term picture looks like, right? Because if somebody says to me, I'm loving my gray as it's growing in, that's something I can use. If somebody says to me, oh, during COVID, it really sucked and, my husband lost his job or things like that, that maybe they don't want to say to us, I can't get my hair done as often, but essentially that's what they're telling us. What a great relief if we say to them, here's some steps that we can take using Illumina Color, using Color Touch Plus, some things that we can do to maybe give you a little bit of longevity in your color as opposed to doing a straight permanent regrowth application, right? So we can use those things to advise and to act as a beauty coach. Our clients really do look to us to say to them, these are the things that I think that you should be doing. And to go back to 2-week Betty never wants anything new with her hair. Never. We all have clients like this that get their hair done every 2, 3, 4 weeks. They get their regrowth done. They're never going to change anything, right? But I make a habit. I actually have one of them coming in this evening. I make a habit of saying to those clients, hey, I saw this new technique online, or I thought of you. How do you feel about trying this new thing? And it's got to be something that just in case they say yes, that you actually think would look good on them, a mini highlight, something simple, right? But during that advise step, really tells them, this person's really got my best interests at heart. She really does care about me. Because fundamentally, I do. But I also want to get paid. I think that's an okay balance, right? So the next thing we need to deal with, is objections, right? And this is the one that I get a lot of questions about. This is the one I get a lot of text messages about this person's freaking out, or what do I do about this? Give me, how do I help with this scenario? And I think it's important to know how to deal with objections, right? How to deal with somebody who maybe is being unrealistic about the balance between what they want versus what's possible with their hair. I know, considering the COVID situation, we're doing a lot of corrective color right now, right? So despite some of the really amazing artists we see online that are taking people back to natural grays or doing these great big conversions, are those things realistic in the salon? Not usually, right? When we're talking about budget, when we're talking about those sorts of things, when all those factors that we get from our consultation are considered, it's not really something usually that's realistic, right? So when a client pushes back on us, why can't you do this in my budget? Why can't this and that happen? I think the biggest point we need to make sure that we remember under objections and under summary as well is to not overinform. Okay, we don't want to tell our clients too much. They don't need to know the ins and outs and specifics of exactly how you're going to go from point A to point B, but we do need to deal with their objections in a reasonable way, right? At the end, yes, you're going to have the occasional client. I've been doing hair for 20 years. I've maybe done this a handful of times. You're going to have the occasional client that pushes you to a point that just want something so specific and unreasonable that you're going to get to a point where you're going to say, you know what? I just can't. You're going to have to find somebody else. But I see this happen a lot. I see scenarios like this a lot online, people asking them about them. In a 20-year career, I could count on one hand with fingers left over the times I've had to do this. And the times I've had to do it, it sucks. It's not fun. Sometimes people online make it out to be a fun thing. It's not. It's really not. It breaks your heart to have to do it, right? We want to give people what they want. But when we're dealing with objections, we have to be reasonable about what's possible, right? So make sure you guys are doing that. Understand your client's potential and work within that. That's really maybe a nicer way of saying we need to make sure that there's a balance between what they want and what is actually possible with their hair from a health perspective and from a budget perspective. okay? So I wanted to talk a little bit too about budget stuff, okay? Because I know that this is a hot button thing. You know, we see hairstylists out there that are doing these big, crazy conversions on models from dark to light, from dark to natural gray, things like that. I really think it's important when we're talking about consultation, because clients bring those pictures in. You guys know this. I'm sure it's already happened, right? We need to make sure that we're talking to those clients about what the realities of those photographs and those transformations really are, right? What does it actually look like when somebody goes from box colored dark to natural gray in what looks like one sitting, right? We need to be realistic, not patronizing, but realistic with clients for what that looks like. So one thing that I talk about in my classes when I'm doing consults in this way is about a little TV show that you might have seen called Say Yes to the Dress, okay? If you've ever seen this show, you know what I'm about to say. If you haven't, homework, Say Yes to the Dress, watch it. So they do some really, really great consultations on that show. And it's a show about wedding dresses, right? If you've never seen it. And about this store in New York where people go and buy wedding dresses. But specifically when it comes to budget. So they do their consultations in a very specific way where they go and they say, who's the bride? And they allow the bride to talk about, they don't jump straight into what kind of wedding dress you want, right? They allow the bride to talk about her wedding and her fiance and tell her story. Part of it is done for TV. Yes, of course, right? But some of it, they're doing step 2. They're gathering that information. I guess step 2 here is atmosphere. Step 3. They're gathering that information to create a picture of that client so that they don't recommend a long sleeve ball gown for a girl who's getting married on the beach, right? So watch it. It's a really great example of consultation. But my point with budget is that when they talk about budget on that show, because I know budget is it makes people nervous. It makes me nervous. I don't want to have to go to somebody and say, what's the budget? Because I don't think you can afford me. Like, nobody wants to do that, right? On Say Yes to the Dress, they leave it to the very end of the consultation and they say, is there a budget that I should be respectful of? And I think it's a really great sort of way to say it, but in a way that makes the client feel comfortable. Is there a budget that I should be respectful of? Now, most of the time, like they definitely have girls on that show that say, no, there's no budget. And before you know, they're buying a $25,000 wedding dress. But usually in the salon, people aren't going to say like, oh, I have an unlimited budget. They're going to say to you, well, how much is this going to cost? Or whatever it might be. Now you've opened up the conversation about budget, which is usually, for me anyway, is a relatively uncomfortable one, right? So I encourage you guys to not be afraid to broach that subject, but maybe practice it. Watch that show, Say Yes to the Dress. It's really well done. And practice that. Is there a budget that I should be respectful of? I think it's a really great point, okay? So then we move on to our next point. On here is 6. On your sheet is going to be 5, ideas. So if we have, at this point, you may have agreed on exactly what is going to happen and you're good. At this point with the girl that does my hair, in like step 2, I'm like, do whatever you want. You know what I mean? So for me, it's quite easy, but it depends on the person, right? But if you get to the end and you still feel like you need to offer some ideas, you can totally do that. But the most important thing you're going to do in the ideas step is to create a future plan. Remember I said at the beginning, I'm not interested in one-time money. I want your money over and over and over and over again. And then I want your sister's money and your mom's money and your friend's money and your dog's money. You know what I mean? Mostly I just want you to bring the dog into the salon. Different combo. But I think it's really important to create that long-term plan, right? I want to plant the seed and become, a part of your life. I want you to think, I have a graduation to go to, better call Chelsea. Oh, I'm getting married, better call Chelsea. Oh, do you know what I mean? I want it to be automatic. So create that long-term plan so that you become just automatically infused into their own mental planning, right? So last but not least, we've got summary down here. And I wanted just to point out to you guys that everything's backwards on Instagram Live. And I did this and wrote it all in reverse so that it would look good on here. So I hope it's readable for you guys. Sorry about the glare. So the last thing is summary. Now, summary is where people sometimes make the world's most giant mistake, okay? Sometimes people, when they get to summary, they're like, okay, here's exactly what we're going to do, and they break it down. I'm going to use this product at this ratio and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, too much, you are over-informing, right? So when it comes to summary, you're just really checking to make sure that we have a consistent plan, that we're on the same page, right? That's all we're trying to do with summary. Don't over-inform them. They don't need to know product details. They don't need to know any of that stuff, okay? And encourage questions from your client, I think, is the last part as well. We always want to make sure that our clients feel comfortable asking us questions. If you have questions about what I'm about to do, please ask them. It doesn't mean that I'm going to spend the next 3 hours telling you everything I know about coloring hair. 3 hours wouldn't be enough time anyway. You know what I mean? But I'm happy to answer the question. We want our clients to feel comfortable with that. Okay? So everything I just said, guys, is in these consultation pads that are available on the app. Okay, so I think it's really, really important that if you guys want that reference, it's on there. Now, somebody in the question cards just asked, do I always use the consultation pad? The answer to that is no. It really depends on the salon though. I know that there's some salons around where I live that took this and developed their own consultation pad based on the really great ideas in here, right? I know I have some salons that do use these that are constantly asking me for them. I will still give them to you, but they're available on the app. So yeah, the answer is no, but there's many different ways that you can work the consultation pad. I encourage you guys to check it out on the app. Okay. Thank you for the question. I have a few more points before I'm going to jump off here, guys. I wanted to talk a little bit about management of expectations. Okay. Anybody who's been in a class with me has heard me say this before. Management of expectations is a really, really important part that I didn't put on here because it really fits into every category. You're doing this sort of as you go, okay? I think that managing expectations just means that we need to make sure that our expectations line up with a client's expectations. That's why I love inspo pics, okay? I love when clients bring this stuff in, right? Show me the good stuff. And we can replicate these things. Like we can do, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this one. But we can replicate these things. It's totally fine, right? But we need to manage expectations, If this girl brings in this photo, management of expectations, right? If, by contrast, if this girl brings in this photo, totally possible. Natural gray hair, roots to ends, but we need to ask this girl, why? This is another big thing that I do in consultation. Why? Maybe she needs a haircut. Okay, cool. But why would somebody who has hair longer than mine and it's natural roots to ends all of a sudden want to have brown hair when this is so gorgeous, right? So we need to ask her why. Because for me, that I'm going to have a fundamental hard time with that, right? So I think the management of expectations thing is really, really important. Is what they're asking you for even realistic, right? And if it's not, okay, this is the clutch part of management of expectations that people do wrong all the time. I know I said there's no right or wrong answer, but there's kind of a wrong answer here. That I see people do wrong all the time is somebody says, I don't have the budget for this, or their expectations versus reality is way off. So a hairdresser says to them, that's not possible. And they refuse to do it, right? For me, I see money flying out the door when people do that, right? For me, I was taught by a very smart man a long time ago to be a hustler, right? And not a hustler in terms of we're stealing from people, but a hustler in terms of if somebody's booked for a solid color and they come in, they're like, I want highlights, do the highlights, figure it out if you can in your schedule, right? So I think it's important to manage those expectations. But I also think it's important to not say the words, that's not possible or I'm not doing it. I will always give my clients an alternative, right? If a client that has hair like this is asking me for hair like this, I'm not going to say to her, this is impossible, right? It's totally possible, but here's what it's going to take to get you there. Here's what it's going to take over the long term to get from point A to point B. And here's what the long-term ramifications look like. Here's what the condition of your hair is going to look like. Be honest. Try not to scare the pants off of anybody. I would never say to somebody, your hair is all going to fry off. You can be a little bit more eloquent than that. But make sure you're managing their expectations, right? And be honest about it, because anybody who's been through a color correction has lived through that really pungent salmon hair stage, and it is what it is, right? But they have to know about it in advance. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys, that's in a nutshell, that was me on consultation in 35 minutes. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of maybe 30 seconds here to throw some questions up if you have them. But a couple of things I'd like you guys to do going forward, okay? I would love everybody to download the app. So if you don't have the Wella app, even if you're not a current Wella customer, please go and download the app. There's so much content on there. And there's stuff on there that is applicable to really anybody. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be Wella brand specific, right? So go ahead on there. Once you download the Wella Education app, you will also in the same platform have access to the Sebastian app, the GHD app, the OPI app, the Nioxin app. I think I said Nioxin twice. You'll have access to all of our other apps, Mann, contained in the one app. So it's a pretty unique tool that way, okay? I would love it if you guys, if you're not already following Modern Beauty Supplies, please do that. Again, thank you to Modern Beauty Supply. I'll encourage you guys to follow this, especially like extra follow it because I had to write it backwards. I'm just saying, right? And you guys can also follow at Wella Canada West, which right now on at Wella Canada West, you guys will get to see all of our beautiful Canadian Beauty and Vision Awards semi-finalists. So shout out to all of our Canadian semi-finalists, whoop whoop, and the US ones, but the Canadian ones, yay. We are all cheering for you. We're so excited for you guys. So if you guys want to see who our semi-finalists are, please head over to at Wella Canada West or onto beautyandvisionawards.com. Again, thanks to Modern Beauty Supplies. Please come back here, guys, on Thursday at 1 o'clock. You guys are going to see my friend and colleague, Nichelle, on talking about color correction. And she's actually going to sort of relate some of the things I talked about today in consultation to color correction. So please make sure you guys do that. And last but not least, guys, a long time ago, a very special person taught me that any knowledge that you have that isn't shared is wasted. You guys don't own your knowledge. I don't own my knowledge. The tax you pay for your time here on earth is the legacy you leave to others. So please share your knowledge. Make sure that you do that. It's really, really important to pay that forward. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you again to Modern Beauty Supply, and we will see you guys on Thursday.
I want the way